Hey, Joe Soto here, and now I get to share with you what I would consider to be 10 big wins that you could tell potential clients to gain their trust. So what is this all about, Joe? Well, it's pretty simple. This is really just your opportunity to showcase your competency to a potential client when you're talking to them one-on-one. It's also a really good idea to learn this for opportunities that you might have when you're out networking, maybe in your business community, or you're running to people and they're asking you about what you do, and you want to be able to latch on to 1, 2, or 3, or 4, or 10 different types of topics that you could bring up in discussion at any given time and sound really smart about. Okay, I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is how can you impress people about what it is that you do by actually helping them understand a certain concept better and how it can benefit their business. And I always say that one of the best ways to get people to hire you to help them is by actually helping them first, by adding value first. And I learned that from some of my mentors, over a decade ago. So let's talk about what some of these hot topics for discussion can be. Some of these you've heard or you've read about or you think you might know how to explain them. But I'm just going to share with you how I would casually, talk about these topics. Now, I am going to provide a handout that gives you literally item by item, how do you talk about, or really helping you understand maybe about each one, and also some resources you could tap into so you can get better versed on some of this. But it really is not going to be more difficult or complex than what I'm going to share with you in this video lesson. So let's talk about the first one of the hot topics out there right now. I'm just going to refer down to my notes. This is the handout on my laptop that I'm going to be giving you. The first one is Facebook and Instagram retargeting, okay? Why is that a hot topic right now? Well, because first of all, most businesses are not doing it or doing it very well. And so if you've got the pixel installed on your browser and you see that somebody doesn't have a pixel installed, they're not tracking website data and feeding that data to Facebook so they could then hyper target people back. So how would I talk about this though in a situation so it can be a win, or considered to be a win, or a highlighted topic of discussion that somebody will remember me about? Now, that's kind of what we're going for here, is how can you be a little more memorable to your clients, where they go, or prospects, or people who might refer you to clients. How can you be memorable to them? Well, it's talking about things and explaining in such a way that they understand how it can help them without diving into the weeds of the tech talk that can go along with this stuff. In fact, when I talk to clients or potential clients, I rarely even use words like Facebook pixel or retargeting. I like the term remarketing because that makes sense to people. How can you remarket to somebody that you've already marketed to, right? That makes sense. Or retarget people that you've retargeted. That makes sense to people. But how I explain it when I talk about Facebook and Instagram, for example, is I might say, hey, Jim, do you currently track your website visitors and then remarket to them with Facebook ads or Instagram advertising? And if they say no, I'll say, well, one of the things that we found is that when people do spend money on any type of advertising and they're driving traffic to their website, that's a really good opportunity to market to those people when they leave your website. So if I were to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is follow-up to you guys, you'd probably say it's a 7 to a 10, right? And they always say yes, of course. And say, okay, if that's important to you, if follow-up's important, what we find is most businesses are surprised that they can actually implement follow-up systems on their website and through ad programs that can retarget and remarket and follow up with people with what we call follow-up ads or remarketing ads on the platforms they visit the most, like Facebook or Instagram. You can also use the same type of language when you're talking about YouTube. And that's an easy way for them to understand it. You can also say, have you ever done a post on Facebook or Instagram and it got a lot of engagement? Okay? And if they're going to say, well, yeah, we had this one time, and then you ask them, what was that about? Like, what did you guys post? And you find out, like, what did their audience engage in? Then you can say, well, did you know you could actually run an ad just to engagement, meaning people who have engaged with your post or with a particular post that you had, and you can just retarget people who have already showed interest. And a lot of times that's a surprise to people. Or you say, did you know that, or I'll say, have you ever had a video that you posted on YouTube that got a lot of views? Now, sometimes if they say yes, then you can just simply say, did you know you can retarget or remarket to people who have watched a certain amount of your videos, so that way you can only target and market to people who have taken like a vested interest in watching or an interest in watching your videos. A lot of times they don't even know that you can do that. Or you may say, no, we don't really even use video. And I'll say, well, here's one of the reasons why you want to use video, because you can remarket and retarget people who have watched, say, for example, 10 seconds or more, or 20 seconds or more, etc. So that way you know you're only re-advertising or advertising for a second time to people who have already expressed some sort of interest because they've viewed your video over a period of time, not just scrolled through in their feed. Well, do you think that would be valuable for your business? And when you learn to talk just simply, casually like this to a client, they appreciate the simplicity of it. It helps them understand it a little bit better. Now see, that's different than diving into tech talk. Like, hey Jim, do you have a Facebook pixel on your site? What's that? Well, it's a piece of code you install on your site. You actually put it into the header of a website, and when your developer installs the pixel code, it then tracks data to Facebook, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, stop talking tech talk to me. When you start understanding that business owners and entrepreneurs, they just want to understand simply how some of this stuff works and have somebody explain it in a way that they can understand it, that makes you valuable to them. Because now you're somebody they can rely on that can understand their business, understand and help them understand the marketing that they need to improve upon. How I just explained Facebook and Instagram is how I would also explain Google and YouTube. I would just simply say, let me ask you something. Over the course of the last 7 days, how often did you see or run across or stumble upon a YouTube video? And they may go, well, it's daily. I say, well, for most people, it's daily. They're on Facebook or LinkedIn, or they're on Google, and they're researching something or looking something up, and they come across a YouTube video that gets their attention or that they watch. In fact, it's the number one search engine in the world aside from Google, and Google owns YouTube. And so having video that could obviously populate there could be beneficial, but think about this for a moment. What about all those website visitors that visit your website that then you could remarket to with a YouTube video? They visited your website, maybe they just looked at a particular page on your website about a particular service, and then you then have a YouTube video that shows up, of you talking to the person that once was on your site saying, hey, what happened? You're on our site, and maybe you wanted more information, or maybe your questions weren't answered. Would that be valuable to you? And they all say, yeah. They love that understanding of how it works. And I think a lot of times marketers run the risk of learning the technical stuff, and then they talk that way to potential clients. Entrepreneurs and business owners, they just want to know, how can you help me, or give me something that I could chew on? And these are things you can kind of walk people through conversationally where they go, man, we're not doing that. We need to be doing that. I'm going to go tell my team we need to be doing that, which is great because it's a win for you, because they may realize once they go talk to their team that they don't know how to do it, or they don't know the strategy behind it. And when someone says to me, hey, we're going to talk to our team and see if they can do that for us, I usually will say, listen, the only thing I'm going to ask you to look out for when you talk to your team is to assess, and you know how to do this, this is your team, not mine, assess whether or not they understand how to do the actual work to do this, and also whether or not they understand the good strategy behind it to make it work well. And if you need some help or further discussion to talk about the strategy for how it can be done well, I'm here for you. I'm all ears, and that can be a good sounding board, or I can even come into your business and meet with your team if we want to discuss what that would look like. Now, when you say that to a client, they appreciate the fact that you're kind of there for them. And you're also giving them a heads up on what to evaluate when they talk to their team. There's a lot of teams that can Google how to do this stuff. There's not a lot of teams that can Google how to do it strategically and do it well, because they don't really care, they don't do enough digging, and they're not in your position where you're immersed in being an effective digital marketing consultant to help a business grow. So, and by the way, all this stuff you can Google to become more well-versed in, understanding more about why a business needs it. And you can type in things like, why does a business need to be advertising, and using YouTube you're targeting? And you can get lots of good articles that can help give you ways to explain this. Website speed. I love asking people, how fast do you think your website pulls up if we were to Google search it real quick? And they go, wow, I don't know. You say, well, here's why it's important. It's important, number one, because Google will actually penalize your website and not allow it to rank organically very high if it loads slowly, meaning it pulls up all the pictures. And have you ever been in a situation where you were waiting on a website to load and it felt like forever, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to leave? Well, that's one of the big issues too is that people are not very tolerant of slow websites anymore. And so, and while that's important because you don't want to lose customers, you also don't want to lose ranking potential. So bringing up site speed and also including it in your audits can be really powerful. Let's keep going because I want to keep talking about more of these. Facebook custom lookalike audiences. I love sharing with people the power of a lookalike audience. Now, on the surface, a lot of business owners will kind of know what it means or they've heard about it. But what I tell them and I share with them, I say, listen, here's really how effective it can be. And I can't believe how many people just don't know this part. I'll say, listen, do you have a current email list? And they say, yeah. I'd say, have you taken that email list, exported it, and uploaded it into Facebook and ran effective campaigns against that list? They go, well, not really. Well, one of the things that Facebook also allows you to do is create a lookalike audience that's similar to your existing email list. So if you've got a very specific or segmented or targeted email list, you have, spent your time building over the years, Facebook will look at, dozens and dozens, actually it's hundreds of different data points of the people that are on your email list because it can match their email address to whether or not they log in with that email on Facebook. And there's about a 60 to 70% match right now of email lists that are uploaded into Facebook where they're using the same email. So then it can match data points and build another list that has similar interest levels, behaviors, etc. of the people that are on Facebook that's like your list. It actually builds you like a mirror audience. That's what a lookalike audience is on Facebook. Do you think it'd be valuable if we could take your email list and you could then create a lookalike audience and then market to that list because they potentially might have the same interest, which is an interest in your business products and services? Would that be valuable to you? That's how I end a lot of those conversations. They always say, well, yes. I'll say, well, another thing you can do is you can create all kinds of custom audiences and lookalike audience based on what existing activity happens on Facebook. So you can create, custom audiences around activity on Facebook as well and lookalike audiences. So a lot of times they just don't understand those concepts and you just explain it to them simply. Okay, let's talk about some more of my favorite ones. So basic SEO. It's funny because our agency no longer offers SEO services. When a client asks us for it, we just source it out to partners and people that we trust, like, and know. But I still will help people with understanding certain basic SEO stuff. So a lot of times I'll find somebody's website and I'll say, real quick, I notice when I hover my mouse over the tab on the browser of your website, it pops up, when you do this, by the way, if you try it, you'll see that it pops up their title tags. Or you can notice that when they show up in search, that the first line description of their business, which is their title tag of their website, doesn't show up with any keywords that make sense for their business. It may just say, like, instead of saying, bathroom remodeling contractor, Washington, D.C., that's what the title tag probably should say, because that's probably a good keyword to show up when someone's in D.C. searching for a bathroom remodeler. It'll say, like, Jim's, bathroom, enterprise, and it's like, wait a minute, and it'll say homepage or something like that, and it's not well optimized. So sometimes just really fast, quick stuff you can mention about SEO. But you also can, share with them a little bit about titles and tags and descriptions and meta descriptions and share with them what a meta description is, which is basically a description of their website that should be featuring their primary and secondary keywords that is behind the scenes, not what somebody reads when they come to their website, but what the search engine reads and crawls so it gets good ranking. You'll be surprised how many businesses just don't understand that. And so you can say, real quick, I can take a look at what your meta tags are and what your site tags are on your website and see if those things are tagged correctly. And then I always say, guess what also plays a huge part in making sure your website ranks high and it lifts your search engine likability or optimization, online. They say, what? I'll say, having your images sized correctly and tagged correctly and labeled correctly with the right keyword when it's uploaded into your website. So if I were to download all your images off your website, do you think that the file names would even be keyword friendly? And they usually say no. And I'll say, most likely there's some work to be done there, and I'd be happy to run an SEO audit for your business if you'd like us to take that first initial step and kind of, get that done for you. And then now you've walked into an opportunity maybe to run an SEO audit. Even if you don't sell those services or you don't offer them, but you want to maybe refer partners to, you still can be valuable in that consulting advice that you can ultimately get paid to sit down with a team and give them, some action points and things they could be doing. You don't have to know how to execute any of this stuff. You could outsource it all, of course, and should, most likely, particularly if you're newer. But you can also introduce them to plug-in tools like Yoast.com, which is a kind of an all-in-one SEO plugin where you can it'll kind of it'll give you and walk you through like a wizard system to SEO your website and make it friendly. Go to Yoast.com. You can learn a little bit more about that. And by the way, they do a great job on that site of explaining simple SEO. Video marketing, I think, is going to be the thing in 2020. If businesses are not leveraging video, at the very least in 2020 and 2021, they're going to be missing out. I think video is taking over the internet. It's taking over the social platforms, and it certainly allows people to capture their viewers' interest in a few short seconds when done well, right? So, I always challenge people and say, what stops you from using video in your marketing? That's how I create that conversation. And they'll give me an answer, and I'll say, what do you think you guys should be doing in video that you're not doing right now? And then they talk about that. And I'll say, what about Facebook Live or Instagram Live or YouTube Live? Do you think there's power in being able to show up on the desktops and laptops and mobile phones of people that might buy your products and services by showing up live? And it's like a commercial time that you create for yourself. You don't have to go book it with some company. You could do it yourself, and then you can advertise that you were on the air. It's never been like that ever before. Is there anything that stops you guys from doing that? And when you find out what the roadblocks are and what's stopping them from moving forward with video, guess who can be the liaison to help guide them through those efforts? And if they don't know, if they say, we don't know, we just really haven't done it, I'll say, do you think that part of it might be in lack of strategy? Guess what that question does? It opens up the door for you to maybe do a strategy session or a strategy day with the client and their team to share with them some of the best practices that they could use and leverage for Facebook advertising, Facebook video, YouTube Live, and Instagram Live, and so on. You can introduce them to tools like, I think it's Mevo that allows you to stream live on YouTube, and I think it's Facebook at the same time, things like that. There's all kinds of tools to be able to do that. People need strategy. They need